Hey guys, your favorite Dinobot here, and this is actually going to cover the capturing of the phase shifter, okay? And again, this does take place while, everything happens at the same time, kind of like in the same way the relic hunt did here. So with that being said here, let us begin. Our story picks up right where it all began, with the Autobots discovering that Jazz, RC, and Ironhide were all in trouble and haven't been communicating with the base for over a while now. Optimus, understanding that his team is in trouble, decides to divide and conquer here, that he'll be heading to the Arctic alone while Knockout and Bumblebee go ahead and rescue their comrades. This is also where Breakdown goes after the toxin, and Bulkhead and Wheeljack head to the subway with Miko and go to retrieve the other relic. Meanwhile, back at the Decepticon warship, before that even happens here, Megatron understands that his forces need to be divided in order to conquer them. So he sends Dreadwing to retrieve one relic. He says Dreadwing to retrieve one. He then sends Arachnid, Vortex, and Blastoff to the Arctic. And this is where he sends Onslaught by himself to the subway, while Brawl and Swindle go ahead and retrieve the toxin. And so, with that being said, here, let's actually talk about the subway here. Onslaught arrives via ground bridge pretty easily, right? And he's actually there with a couple of Viacons. And so, with them tracking the relic, they obviously begin to dig there. But unlike in the original timeline, with Miko being able to stay along with the Wreckers because, again, they trust her a lot more than, well, Bumblebee and RC would, Wheeljack and Bulkhead are able to make their way to the relic here, and so this is where they peer around the corner and they see that it's Onslaught with just a couple of Viacons. Bulkhead then states to Wheeljack, "So, what do you think the plan's going to be for this one? Blow him up and just grab the relic?" To which he says, in a confined space, Bulkhead, "Listen, I've been foolish before, but not this time." And so, showing that Wheeljack has actually learned from this experience here, he actually looks at Miko and says, "Think you can carry it up to the surface?" To which Miko says, "Heck yeah, she can." And so, this is where Wheeljack is the first to, well, throw a mini grenade around the corner here. And so, when the Viacon sees it here, the explosion is small enough to where the Viacon can be launched back, but again, not enough to disrupt the subway's integrity or the subway system's integrity here. And so Bulkhead and Wheeljack both rush against the Decepticons and Onslaught. Onslaught tells the Decepticons to open fire, to which obviously the Viacons do. But as we all know, Viacons have Stormtrooper-like aim. And so with that being said here, Bulkhead's able to make quick work of the Viacons here, while Wheeljack actually just jumps over him and, well, spear tackles Onslaught away from the relic. To which this is where Bulkhead actually grabs the relic and actually runs off with it here. And so Onslaught throws Wheeljack off him and gets chased, using his shoulder cannons to basically blast at Bulkhead while drawing his blade here. Wheeljack then transforms to his vehicle mode and then just runs, like just drives right beneath Onslaught and then spins at the last moment, tripping him as well here. He then transforms and draws his swords, rushing at Onslaught. Onslaught then takes out his dual wrist blades, not, too big and too impressive, but just enough for combat, and actually begins to fight against Wheeljack, but due to Wheeljack having more agility and more reflexes than Onslaught here, he's actually able to outskill him and actually does get some lethal slashes on him. Luckily, Onslaught is enhanced, meaning that his armor or alloy is enhanced as well. So the cuts aren't too deep and aren't too fatal, or pretty much not too grievous here. And so this is where Onslaught then makes the opportunity or makes the option to actually play it smart, actually begins to take a step back and begin strategizing here. And so he shoots a blast at Wheeljack and then transforms and then rushes him. Wheeljack, understandably, has to block the blasts first, but again gets ran right over by Onslaught, who actually goes for Bulkhead here. And so, as Bulkhead is simply running down the subway here, this is where he's actually hit from the back, no diddy, by Onslaught here. However, due to Bulkhead being much heavier here, he's able to take this quite well, but unfortunately he does drop the relic here. And so, when Onslaught transforms, he uppercuts Bulkhead into the ceiling and then kicks him away from the relic, to where Onslaught opens it, and, well, it's nothing in there. And he says, "What? How was this? When did?" And so this is where we would actually see Miko running up the stairs of the New York subway, just holding a container. Matter of fact, holding her book bag, I would say here. And so she then contacts Ratchet in an alleyway asking for a ground bridge and makes her way back to base. The plan the entire time was to distract Onslaught long enough for Miko to escape. And so Onslaught, understanding that he's been played, is so enraged, in fact, that he just starts to unleash hell upon Bulkhead and the rest of them. However, Bulkhead simply is able to wail on Onslaught with his hammer, while Wheeljack begins to jump in and add his flurry of combinations to him as well here. And so, with that being said here, they are able to not only overwhelm Onslaught, but force him to have no other choice but to retreat. So Onslaught transforms into his military truck and drives off into the dark subway. To which, this is where Wheeljack and Bulkhead fist bump each other and tell Ratchet that they can head back to base. As they head back to base here, they actually do, gloat about their accomplishment here, I would definitely say. But when they see Ironhide, RC, and Jazz injured here, they actually ask them what's going on, what happened. To which Jazz begins to explain what happened to everyone and just what happened in general here. To which this is where Ratchet is communicating with Breakdown and states that he needs help. However, considering the sheer fact that Jazz was the less injured of them here, he actually goes to help out Breakdown. But wait. Let's talk about that. What happened when Breakdown went to retrieve the toxin? Let's talk about it. Breakdown drives to the volcano location. And keep in mind, no Insecticons were discovered yet in this timeline, so they are Insecticon free. And with that being said here, Breakdown actually drives to the location that the relic has, and is actually able to make it there first due to his vehicle mode. And so he chips away at it, unaware that he is actually being watched now. You see, Swindle and Brawl actually appeared a lot later, considering that Bulkhead made it there first before the Insecticons even arrived, so why not have Breakdown arrive there? He's a simple truck, while Brawl and Swindle are military vehicles. They're not that fast, And so when Breakdown actually gets to the toxin here, he actually opens it to see what it is, and again, does discover that it is toxin. He then relays this back to Ratchet, but before that happens, he is then bombarded by firepower here. Luckily, he's a big bot. He can take hits pretty well here. And so, he then looks up to see both Swindle and Brawl there, and well, he does something that normally he wouldn't do. And Ratchet even relays this to him. You got to get the toxin away from them. And so Breakdown transforms and drives off. Swindle, being the faster of the two here, tells Brawl to set up his cannons. And so Brawl actually transforms into a more, what's the word I'm looking for? A more crawler-like setting. Like, in Fall of Cybertron, where he had basically his tank mode, and then basically his, turret mode. Matter of fact, let's call it that. Or do you guys want it to be called the crawler mode? Let me know in the comment section down below. But matter of fact, I am going to call it the crawler mode. It just sounds way crueler. Now, the crawler mode actually provides a lot more bombardment firepower than, basic firepower. So Breakdown is having to dodge Brawl's firepower while also dodging Swindle's. And so he's able to make his way decently towards the top of the volcano and is able to avoid them, even ducking into a underground volcanic system, which Swindle does have to follow him here. And so, scanning the underground system here, Brawl states that he knows a way to cut Breakdown off and tells Swindle to meet him there. And so, Swindle gives chase, pushing Breakdown to this point here. And so, as Breakdown makes his twists and turns through the caverns here, he sees that he could possibly dump it here, but he would have to fight Swindle, and it's just not a safe opportunity at the moment. And so he drives to the exit, but he does spot Brawl at the entrance here with his cannons pointed at him. However, understanding that it's either back down or back up, Breakdown chooses to go up and revs up his engines so fast and just pushes his, motor function to his limit here and rams Brawl. Brawl is able to catch him and toss him, but luckily Breakdown is able to hold on to the toxin and does use his shoulder cannon to blast back Brawl. And so Swindle and Brawl begin to unleash their firepower upon Breakdown. Breakdown is, however, able to duck under a rock here or duck behind a large boulder here, which again, we know how Transformers Prime works. They, for some reason, they can't blast through stone all like that, but it is what it is here. And so Breakdown says he needs immediate help here. However, this is where a space bridge opens and Jazz comes through with his sonic cannons here. And this is where Breakdown says, dude, I thought you were injured. He says, yeah, but he's the least injured at the moment here. So Jazz actually begins to fight against Breakdown and, sorry, not Breakdown, Brawl and Swindle, and tells Breakdown to make a break for the volcano's top. And so, that being said here, a lot of stuff in the original happens. Breakdown and Swindle have a race up top. Swindle transforms and still manages to tackle Breakdown and begins to beat on him. But before he can get the toxin, Breakdown surprises him with a hammer strike and actually begins to outfight the likes of Swindle here, telling him that he's proud to be an Autobot and that he would never go back to being some treacherous Decepticon ever again, before knocking Swindle out and tossing the toxin into the volcano. The Decepticons are right now 2-0. Or so that we think, right? What's happening with Optimus? Let's talk about it. So, Arachnid, Vortex, and Blastoff arrive in the Arctic instead of Dreadwing. However, this is where we have another change, with Starscream and his forces having to recuperate after losing to the Autobots here, despite having the upper hand. Well, they're not here, meaning it's a smooth transition all the way to, well, until they meet Optimus Prime. What, y'all thought it was going to be smooth for the Decepticons? Heck nah. They gotta fight against Optimus Prime, who wants the relic. Optimus, understanding that these Decepticons are a lot tougher than the original, or tougher than I guess you could say tougher. I wouldn't say tougher than Dreadwing. I'm not gonna say that. But they're a lot more skilled. They're a lot deadlier. And this is again a team of hard-hitting Decepticons here, with Arachnid being the one to lead this mission here. And so, with that being said, we have the sheer fact that Optimus now has to go toe-to-toe with 3 Decepticons. The fight starts off pretty simple. Arachnid, Blastoff, and Vortex all fire at Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime, understanding he's outgunned here, rolls out of the way and shoots both Blastoff and Vortex away from Arachnid, and thus summons his sword and is able to go and get closer. Arachnid, utilizing her webbing, is able to somewhat hold Optimus back because, again, he has to block the webbing. However, this is where she turns to her spider form and jumps away here, to which he tells Arachnid that he needs the relic now, to which she says she was going to ask him the same thing, Prime. But just before Prime can make another move, Vortex jumps right over Arachnid and hits Optimus with his shockwave, knocking him back here. This is where Blastoff transforms and begins to spiral dive bomb on Optimus here. So Optimus actually grabs one of the missiles that he, was able to evade and catch here and throws it right back at Blastoff, knocking him out of his vehicle form and causing him to crash land into the ground pretty hard here. And so Vortex takes out his blades and rushes at Optimus here. And so as they're fighting, Arachnid says for them to hold him off, to which Blastoff gets up and pulls out his own firepower and begins to lay onto Optimus on one end while he has to engage Vortex on the other. Optimus, luckily, is still stronger than them and tries to play into that. But again, they are skilled here. And so they're able to evade Optimus here. And when Blastoff blasts him from one end, Vortex slashes at him from another. And this puts Optimus in a corner. Meanwhile, Arachnid makes her way to the human facility, not really caring about the humans. So, this is pretty messy. Like, badly messy here. And so when she finds out that it's the Apex armor, keep in mind she's able to get to it easily because of her acidic, I think it's either her saliva or her finger. Maybe both. I don't know. I mean, something acidic, if you know what I'm saying. But again, she's able to melt through the ice and is able to grab the Apex armor. However, this is where Optimus Prime is able to appear behind her. And well, she says that, Prime, I was wondering if you could help me try out my new accessory. To which Optimus tries to rush Arachnid and say don't, but she's able to put on the Apex armor in time and, well, knocks Optimus away. And so now we have another problem. Arachnid with the Apex armor. And this is where I would definitely have Optimus on the losing end here. He can't do anything to her at all here. She's able to wail on Optimus effortlessly. And considering the sheer fact that she is a skilled warrior in her own right, she tries to apply it, but Optimus takes advantage of this and is able to not only outmaneuver Arachnid, but does manage to suplex her. But the unfortunate part about this is he has nothing that can harm her. Nothing that can pretty much get through the Apex armor. So Optimus kind of feels a bit helpless in this situation here. And so with that helplessness comes doubt. With that helplessness comes wavering. And so Arachnid, seeing this, does take advantage of it and is probably able to get the upper hand on Optimus here. This is where Vortex and Blastoff appear and say that, oh, so you got the relic for Lord Megatron. To which she says, well, yes, but hopefully she can keep this one. To which Vortex and Blastoff simply look at Arachnid a bit confused here, but they choose not to say anything about it, considering the sheer fact that right now they are united, or at least, because of Starscream being out there, they can't risk another third party. So, with that being said, she has the upper hand on Optimus. Or so at first she thinks. This is where a space bridge opens and Bumblebee comes through with the meanest dropkick of the century. This does not harm her in any way, obviously, but it is enough force to get Optimus back, or to get Arachnid back, excuse me. And so, with that being said here, Optimus says they have no way of winning this at all here. And so, Optimus and Bumblebee both have no other choice but to retreat. And so Arachnid takes herself out of the Apex armor and then hands it to Vortex, saying that they've completed their mission. And besides, she doesn't feel like carrying it. So she contacts Soundwave and they head back to the warship. Now let's talk about this moment of reprieve here. The Autobots have the following: the Spark Extractor, the Forge of Solus Prime, and the Phase Shifter. Meanwhile, the Decepticons have the Requiem Blaster. Yes, I made sure that they got that instead of the Forge of Solus Prime, because again, I do think they would have discovered this relic a lot earlier or at the same time as the Forge of Solus Prime. We could probably say the Autobots just didn't get it to in time, and well, unfortunately, Megatron has it. And so this is where Megatron is scolding Onslaught for the sheer fact that he lost his relic. To which this is where he sees Arachnid with the Apex armor and says, good work. And so, with that being said here, he then simply instructs Onslaught to put the relic away and to make himself useful. To which Onslaught simply does bow and leaves. And this is where we have one other thing addressed here. And he says that if Dreadwing does not succeed Arachnid, then you will be my second in command. But if Dreadwing brings back something greater than anything or anyone that you can pretty much capture and bring, you may have lost your chances. To which Arachnid, feeling a bit antsy, kinda hopes that Dreadwing doesn't come back with anything more valuable than her. Because what could be more valuable than the Apex armor? But I'll leave that for another part. And so, with that being said, what's happening with the Autobots? Well, they are at a moment of peace here. Optimus and Bumblebee are getting repaired, while Ironhide and RC are in a bit more of a recovery stage here. They took a beating, badly. RC is still recovering from her lashes and slashes from Starscream, and Ironhide is, well, still recovering in general here, as he'll take a lot more time to heal due to him being a much older bot. And this is where Bulkhead even jokes about it. However, Ironhide just promptly, punches him in the shoulder and tells him that he's not that old here. Meanwhile, Jazz, who took the least amount of damage, is back in fighting capability, but he does have to be careful here. And so, this is where he pretty much tells Optimus what they do now. And he says, considering there are 3 relics left right now, they still need to go out there and get them. And so, this is where Jazz tells Wheeljack and Bumblebee that they are getting the next relic here. And so, when they actually roll out, they actually see a lot of destruction around them. They see dead mech soldiers and, well, sword scrapes, likely from Menasor, and even bomb imprints from none other than Dreadwing. And Jazz simply asks, what's going on here? To which Wheeljack says, likely a Decepticon battle. Maybe Starscream and his forces recovered faster than we expected here. And so we would pan over to Dreadwing, engaging both Starscream and Menasor while holding the glasses of Alchemist Prime. And so that's where we're going to leave it off here, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys have a blessed day.